You can often exchange the word mindset or even attitude with intention. So an attitude or a mindset of something is similar to the idea of intention. And it's simply shifting the way your brain sees the world, the way you experience the world about certain things, about a certain subject area, and accepting it as a possibility, a real possibility, as opposed to something that maybe you've set a goal and you hope this happens, but it's not something you really are owning as this is truly related to who I am and what I want to do and who I want to be. That's where intention is all about, and alignment and honesty in an honest way.
Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. This is the Conscious Edge podcast, and I'm Alecia St. Germain, entrepreneur and coach. Along with my friend and wellness advocate, Jonathan Duggar, we're diving into what it means to embody radical self-acceptance while still evolving to lead with compassion and kindness. We're sharing our own experiences and expertise as we unpack imposter syndrome, perfectionism, procrastination, and all the other things that lead to burnout and keep you from experiencing pure joy, business growth, and maximum impact. This is a safe and supportive space to explore what it means to be a human creating wealth and building a business. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. Welcome back to the Conscious Edge podcast. I'm your host, Alecia St. Germain, and I am here with Jonathan Duggar. He's back with us. I think we've hit a stride now that you've recovered you're recovering from your trip and time away. Now we are officially in full holidays tilt. And so I think after last week's session, it's really a great time for us to dive into a little bit more deeply into intention setting. We've been talking about goals and intentions over the last several weeks. If you are new to us, I want to say welcome. We're so excited to have you. You may have stumbled on this podcast in the process of looking for a different way of building your business and really looking at it from a very holistic standpoint where your well-being, your human experience, the way you feel, what you think, how you take care of your body and the people that you love all matter very much to you. And so you've taken a very journey-focused approach, or you want to take a journey-focused approach. And maybe up until now, you've been really set on the destination and it's starting to wear you out and you're feeling burned out maybe a little bit from it. So our goal here is to bring that spark back into what you do.
Spark some joy.
Spark some joy. Right? And so we want to say welcome. Make sure you hit the follow button or subscribe, depending on how you're hearing us. And we come out with new podcasts every single week. We actually had a conversation earlier before we started recording about whether we should take a break or not over the holidays. And Jonathan's piece was like permission to take a break. Everyone else is doing it. And I said, I think we don't need to take a break because this is not hard for me. This is time that I get to spend with one of my favorite people in the world. And I get to talk about things to people that I care about. So to me, this time that I spend, no matter what is going on in my life, no matter what is on my heart, I always find that this time that I spend with you, creating these podcasts for people, fills me up. It's like,
I agree.
It's joy. So we're not going to take a break. I decided.
Dadgummit.
Because of all the things I'd want to take a break from, it's not this.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll continue to be with you through the holiday season and maybe do something really fun and special in that time frame between Christmas and New Year's and think about what that's going to be. So as we get started today, One of the things we've been talking about is intentions. And so Jonathan actually came up with 3 benefits of setting intentions that we want to dive into and 4 tips on how to set them. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And I'm going to let you kick us off here with our first benefit.
Okay. Before I jump in, let me just give a little context around intention and that word and the language around it. The idea of intentions and setting intentions is nothing new. This has been in a common language in our culture for quite a while. And in the corporate world has gotten to be something that's you hear in corporate vernacular, even just, in business meetings. And it's like, well, if we set our intentions or our intention in this and being intentional on that, well, that's all well and good, but we don't want to dilute the concept or exaggerate the concept into some sort of magical thing. There's movies out there, there's books out there about setting intention, and some of them are great. Some of them are a little, in my opinion, a little too off track of what I'm talking about, at least when I'm talking about intention. So you can often exchange the word mindset or even attitude with intention. So an attitude or a mindset of something is similar to the idea of intention. And it's simply shifting the way your brain sees the world, the way you experience the world about certain things, about a certain subject area, and accepting it as a possibility, a real possibility, as opposed to something that maybe you've set a goal and you hope this happens, but it's not something you really are owning as this is truly related to who I am and what I want to do and who I want to be. That's where intention is all about, and alignment and honesty in an honest way, alignment in an honest way. All right. So diving into my list of benefits of setting intentions. So intentions follow a pattern of flexibility. So flexibility is part of this mindset of intentional mindset. So intentions allow for adaptability based on our ever-changing lives, circumstances, and feelings. So often when we're hardwired to a goal, we get so locked into a precision path that it becomes rigid, and we lose our flexibility, we lose our creativity, and we definitely lose our joy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, step 1 has got to be this, and it's got to be on this time frame, and it's got to be done in this specific way. And when that doesn't happen, all that follows is frustration and disappointment, as opposed to, oh, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity to figure out a different path or to adjust my goal completely because it's no longer in alignment with my intention, with who I truly want to be and how I want to be, how I want to be and how I want to get there. So flexibility is huge.
Yeah, I see that happen a lot with my real estate investor clients. Is they're taught a strategy for creating income. And so then they have this path of, I want to buy a certain number of doors. I want to get to a certain cash flow. I'm going to do it in this way. I'm going to do it in this market. And I want to do it by this time frame, right? So all of the things that are related to goal setting. And it starts to become a grind for them. And they, again, lose all that joy. And then market shifts, the availability of the type of asset class that they're investing in becomes scarce or not a great time to invest in it. And so then they become very frustrated because it feels like that goal becomes very out of reach. And they either get defeated and maybe go back to a job or do something they didn't really want to do, or they force it. And so then they end up buying bad deals.
Yep.
And so one of the things we were recently talking about in one of my coaching groups was there's like a through line of what drives you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you think about like one of the people that I'm thinking about, her product, like what she provides, she really likes to provide short-term or midterm rentals to healthcare professionals who are traveling. And the specific thing for her is like she wants it to feel like home, even though they're in a foreign place, not where They are normally, they're traveling and they're in an unfamiliar place. And so anybody who would value home is how her places would feel. And so I said, so when you lead with that and you think about anything that you can be doing that makes people feel like home, there's other things you can do and adjust and other strategies even that you could implement.
But also allows you, again, that adaptability based on, so I've seen, and just staying with the subject area of real estate, I've seen for flippers, how they have a very cookie cutter formula for what product they use, what paint color they use, what floorings they use, whatever it is across the board, because they have that all costed out. They know exactly what their numbers are in terms of acquisition. They know exactly how that particular floor goes down or that paint goes on the wall. Well, that formula is okay, but what you recognize if you've flipped enough houses is that not every house lends itself to a particular product. It just doesn't feel right in that house, or it conflicts with the architecture or the layout or something else. So when you get too locked up into a pattern or a process without staying flexible, it often can, it can lead to poor outcomes. But if, like you said, if you have a higher level purpose behind a purpose-driven intention, I want to create an environment that feels like home. Well, that could be done in a variety of ways, and you can help the structure speak to that, help the logistics speak to that if you follow that intention, as opposed to having a process that you have to sometimes force it to conform with a given situation.
Yeah. And that makes me think, because sometimes that's done to eliminate decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have those formulas and the things that generally work, it makes it so that you don't have to be the go-to. It makes it more scalable. And I get that. And also, let's not get so locked into it, our security blankets.
Yes. That's where it goes to often, is it's a safety net. Helps you stay out of that place of feeling challenged. And challenge is important. It's important. Things that aren't challenged don't grow.
Yeah.
So,
and then also reassessing, right? Because there comes a point where those things become dated. And so
exactly.
You have to keep it. It's kind of like wearing the same hairdo and you don't even realize that you've become outdated in the hairdo that you're wearing, as I sit here with a bump it on top of my head.
I thought that was the most trendy style right now.
You're so
but it
funny.
does. It locks you in also to where you lose sight of possible cost saving opportunities because of new product, new installation methods, all sorts of things. So my brain's going 100 different directions with real estate stuff because there are so many things. One of the reasons for years when I was still doing a lot of flipping, I went to the home and product show every year in Orlando, not because I enjoyed it. I absolutely did not enjoy the actual mechanics of it. But what I did enjoy was I would discover new people and new product, and new circumstances that kept me forward thinking of, okay, how do I improve my process? How do I improve my strategy? And it was just sort of a beneficial tool to keep me creative and keep me aware of new developments, new technology, that type of thing.
So there's a place for both, I think is what we're really saying, is flexibility and adaptability, which is not something that is often talked about in the formula for creating wealth.
Exactly.
And it's all about scalability. I hear a lot about scalability and replication, but not a lot about creativity and
And I would say flexibility and creativity, adaptability are the most key to any process, because a flexible, scalable model is a powerful model. Simply scalable means that you've locked into a rigid format that doesn't change. So keeping that flexibility as part of your scalable model, which means it's subject to change and adjustment based on context, then that's a truly powerful model.
Yeah. All right. Number 2 benefit.
Number 2, mindfulness. And you guys hear us use this word a lot. And kind of like I mentioned with common language around intention, we have the same thing with mindfulness. And mindfulness, we'll talk about this more in probably another episode, but mindfulness has become part of common language. It's used in healthcare, it's used in corporate settings. And we need to be really careful that we don't, the conceptual area doesn't lose its power because we've overused it in ways that aren't applicable to what it actually means. So mindfulness simply says that it would encourage us to stay present and aware and focus on the process rather than the outcome. Now, that may sound counterintuitive to task completion, but it actually is not. So think about it this way. If you focus in a non-judgmental way as an observer to the direction or the path that something is taking, it keeps you constantly aware of any adjustments that need to be made, of any potential pitfalls, and it keeps you out of an emotional place of making poor decisions because of past trauma, future fear. It keeps you present and relevant to the task at hand. So if an intention has mindfulness behind it, it means that as we're going through the process of setting that intention, we're making sure that it is truly what we're wanting to do. It is truly realistic for the context of our current life, of our family situation, of our work situation. And removes the element that we often waste so much time in of judgment, of locking up what other people will think, being off task or off track of what my life plan was supposed to be at this point. But you just stay in a place of evaluation and assessment and observation. It's hugely powerful. It's very freeing. It frees up a lot of energy. It frees up a lot of cognitive resource, and it helps you plan and take next steps that, again, aren't necessarily outcome focused, but can be incrementally step focused of, okay, now I'm clear on where I need to go next. So let's do that.
So let's make it even more tangible example. Last time we were talking about the retreat that we're running in February, and you made a comment just now where you said that doesn't sound like it would be using mindfulness would help you like get to a future goal, but it does. And so,
yes,
in the context of planning the retreat, we've used some mindfulness at points.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm thinking about as an example for you is we got the retreat house booked. And then the next thing I think I said to you was, okay, so we've got to get some legalese stuff taken care of. We've got to get some retreat language and waivers. And you had to look into some of the context of what it meant for you being a psychologist and the state in which we're going to be doing this.
Yes.
How does mindfulness apply in that forward momentum of the retreat?
So let's track to intention. So our intention in everything that we're doing with the podcast, with the retreat, is to create a space that feels safe, that is, you use the word rejuvenating a lot, that is rejuvenating for people, that sparks joy, but also has a practical application of how do I apply this in my everyday life? How do I apply this in my business? So setting that intention, but also being mindful and aware that there's lots of malpractice. We live in a country that has lots of lawsuits and lots of legalese, and I have to be mindful of those aspects of what I do as a practitioner, because I am still clinically licensed. And so I'm held to a level of scrutiny that's different than somebody that doesn't hold a license in a mental health area. So I sort of like, I've got to stay mindful or aware of those legal things, but not get locked up in the specifics or in a judgment way of like, I could say, this is just
not worth the hassle.
Yeah, this isn't worth the hassle. This is so much, maybe brings up some trauma for me from some past interactions of some things that have happened in a different setting. And so I stay mindful. And if stuff comes up for me, I observe it, I deal with it, and then I take the next step. I will admit that when I found out that Arizona particularly was one of those states where there was a higher level of scrutiny. I was like, oh, here we go again. Now I got to call my malpractice provider. Now I got to do this. Now I got to. But again, once I got to a place of peace with it, it's just another step. It's just a simple thing that I take care of. It's a box I have to check. Yeah. So all the other wasted energy stuff, that's me. That's all my own stuff. That has nothing to do with the actual process, circumstance, anything else.
And the reason I brought that up is because, and I like the practical, I like to demonstrate in real life, in real time, like some of the things that are going through and how we're utilizing these pieces. I wanted to make it so that have a really specific thing, but it's so often I hear people want to change things. They want to make something different. They want to go after a certain vision that they have. And then because it becomes hard, the resistance comes up, the piece where it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to be bothered with this. So then they just don't do it.
Yeah.
And then they have some emotions around it that they don't deal with. And so throughout this whole process, you and I have both had to handle and be mindful of what's coming up for us, what is from the past, what is it that we do to mitigate anything that is real.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you made that comment about how mindfulness might seem like it wouldn't move you forward to a goal, it actually helps you get there faster.
Absolutely. And in a much more aligned way so that you're not wasting resource and you're not doing things that are actually unhealthy. You and I had the conversation very early on before we started this podcast that one of the things that one of the intentions we were setting was that there would be challenges for us and that we would have opportunity and space to process and learn by doing this, because we're both, key elements of the entrepreneur, learn by doing. And we're very much both wired that way. So this is a constant learning and challenge process for us, that's what we asked for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we said. So this actually perfect segue into the third point, and that intention is personal. Intention has to be dug into in terms of, does it promote self-reflection? Is it key to my growth? Does it help me align with who I truly am, with my core values? Because if there's misalignment there, it's not an intention. You have not set an intention. You have maybe set a goal, because goals are often set without alignment, or there's somebody else's alignment. They're not true to who you are. And I've been using a terminology that I'm calling, and it's probably already out there in literature. I haven't looked it up. I should do that, actually. Note to self, called mindful planning. And the idea that mindfulness is super helpful in planning for the future, because we're much more likely to get to an effective place in the future in a healthy way if we're in alignment with our values, with our whys, with our intentions. So mindful planning is just a attitude of allowing yourself to focus fully on the task at hand without distraction, and understand how that leads to the next step, the next step, the next step along a particular path. This helps ensure that your plans are in alignment with your current resources, are in alignment with your true values, and in alignment with the original intention you set. Because it is not uncommon, and I'm sure you deal with this with your clients, I know I do, where they have lost track of why they're trying to get to a particular goal, and they don't even realize it. They're so focused on obtaining that salary or getting that job or finishing that real estate deal that they've lost track of the why, what fuels their fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're feeling overwhelmed or disconnected or sad or depressed, because they're out of alignment with what they really want to be doing and who they truly are.
While you were in Italy, I actually did a podcast about how I set up my calendar. I'm going to link it in the show notes, because what you are describing as mindful planning is exactly what that podcast is. It's
that's awesome.
putting.
I haven't heard that one yet. I saw it on the episode list, but I haven't heard it yet.
It's about putting everything that's important to you and that you value on your calendar first, and then making your plan for money around it. And so that you are staying filled up. Your family is staying where it needs to be in your calendar and not as an afterthought. Yep. So I'm going to link that one so that they can dive deeper into that too.
I just had a thought and to this. So, I wrote that course years ago, Mind Over Money.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought about an updated version of that now for where I am and where we both are is mindfulness over money.
So I think we've got day 2 of the podcast planned. Because we're going to have day 1. We were really talking about connecting to your dreams and your intentions. And
of the retreat, you mean?
Of the retreat, yeah. Did I say something different?
You said podcast.
Retreat. I meant retreat. And then day 2, we knew we wanted to talk about money. So now I believe mindfulness over money. Mindful over money will now be the name of day 2.
Yep. Redefining success, wealth, and prosperity.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So this is flow, everyone. You have just witnessed flow happening in the moment on the podcast. All right. So now you've got 4 tips for how to set intentions, basically.
Yes. This ties to what we've been talking about in specific ways. So first tip is reflect on your values. So consider what truly matters to you. I'm constantly amazed at the number of people that have never gone through the exercise of defining their whys, of figuring out, digging in, at least coming up with a couple of high level reasons why they do what they do or why they want to do what they want to do. And it is so important to dig in and find what's truly yours and be able to own it, as opposed to what your parents said you should do or your boss said you should do or whatever it is. So reflecting on your values and figuring out what truly matters to you. The second is, I just said, be specific, but open. Be specific, but open. You might say be specific, but flexible. So articulate your intentions clearly, but remain open to how they unfold and how they may change. So let's say you do go through an exercise of sitting down, whether you're a bullet point person, a list maker, or you're a narrative person, you're writing down, trying to uncover some of those motivators, some of those whys. There's a good chance you're, through self-discovery of doing just that process, you're going to discover some that you didn't even know you had. It's kind of like when you work with people on doing a map through ITC and you're trying to get to those big assumptions. Often, I remember when I did my first one, I mean, you probably remember that. It was an emotional moment. And I went into that whole thing with arrogance of I got this all figured out. And boy, it became very apparent very quickly that I did not. And that I had some self-discovery.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, just to give you some context, in my coaching, I use a methodology called immunity to change. And in this process, you're linking behaviors, thoughts, and feelings to unconscious thoughts that you're having, that you don't realize drive your behavior, drive how you feel. And so Jonathan and I went together to the original starting process, the facilitators, where you learn how to facilitate doing this map. And so you thought, I got this all figured out. And then I think you were crying within about an hour and a half.
3 hours. Yeah.
Right. And I remember it was really specific. And what I was going to say regarding that is that so interestingly, often our triggers are things that make us irritated about other people, our judgments. I've actually found them when you use mindfulness and you unpack them, they're actually clues to your values and what is important to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you can, once you start practicing mindfulness and you start monitoring your own kinesthetics, your own way your body responds, the own emotions that come up, memories that come up, those are direct links often to our core values, to our true whys. And also gives us insight to the conflicts and the dissonance where we've been doing things counter to those whys. We're doing things that actually make us antagonists against ourselves when it comes to how we really feel and how we're very misaligned in terms of how we really feel and what we're actually doing. So next tip is using affirmative language. And you could say using positive language. I just stayed away from the word positive because it seems to be loaded these days, but using affirmative language, meaning framing your intentions from a standpoint of joy and positivity and focus on what you want to invite into your life. So you're looking at things that you want to grow into, that you want to evolve into, that you want to learn about. So things that tie to bringing more joy, bringing more happiness, bringing more creativity and fun. And often that's left out of the language that we use. Wait, I can't have fun and work on a goal at the same time. Well, if you're not having fun and you're trying to work towards something, then you're misaligned. There's something wrong with the picture. And that's a good place in a non-judgmental way to step back and start figuring out what it is. Where's the misalignment? So using that affirmative language as you create these intentions. And then this is a really important one and one we leave out often. Revisit your intentions regularly. And you could say this about your goals too. Check in with your intentions periodically to see if they still resonate with who you are and how you're feeling about who you are. Because things change. Often after we've gone through a major life event, our values adjust. Now, you'll hear people talk about core values are stable and static and never change. They don't understand what core values really are if they feel that way. And that's not my opinion. That's what the research says. It's similar to the idea is personality is static and never changes. And that we know that's not accurate either. So our core values may adjust as we learn more and as we grow more. For instance, I know a person that's very important to me in my life that used to be very judgmental around certain areas related to people's belief systems, spiritual beliefs specifically. And a few years back went through some traumatic circumstances where they had their own sort of, I don't know what's a good way to say it, spiritual awakening, I guess. And it changed their core values to the core on such a deep level that it shifted the way they see the world across the board. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could have asked this person what shaped them and what moved them and what motivated them. And it's completely different than what they would tell you now. And it's related to what they learned and how they grew. So we're all in that, have those opportunities to leverage our trauma, leverage the hard stuff and leverage the good stuff to grow and to do better and to do different. And that's why it's so important to go back and reflect and make sure you're still in alignment. And again, your body will tell you, your circumstances will tell you, you're missing out on sleep, your diet's changed, you have an acne outbreak, you are having stomach upset, you got stuff going on. There's probably a misalignment somewhere going on in your life. And that's where, in a non-judgmental way, it becomes really important to sit back and observe that and try and figure out what it is.
That reminds me of how I always used to value the truth. Hate lying, hate it. It is very triggering for me. So I value truth. What I have learned in my wisdom is that there are many truths.
Yes.
And so what I've learned to value is perspective and look at things from many people's perspective as opposed to one right truth.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good way to put it. And that's the same sort of affirmative language is, when you focus on, if you can be honest and stay in a narrative with somebody without telling everything you know, without causing dissonance and discord. You can be honest and truthful and still stay peaceful. There's a misconception that truth often is a disruptor, that it stirs the pot. Well, that's usually truth fueled by judgment and often is more opinion than it is truth. And we see a lot of that today in politics and, across the board in our culture. So, but I think that that's, again, being mindfully honest is really another one of those places that mindfulness, it becomes such a huge piece.
Can come in. Yeah. So you've got your 3 benefits, your 4 tips, a bunch of examples. And if something landed for you, I want to invite you to connect with me on Instagram at Alecia St. Send me a DM. I am in there. I do respond to you and I share everything that would come in for Jonathan. It's just better if we have one source of communication and then we forward you to the right place.
Yes.
And that way you're seen and heard. And that's really the feedback and knowing we're making a difference and ideas that you have, or if it sparked a question, I really invite you to ask any questions that came up. And we may not know the answers, but we are certainly happy to research and explore or bring other people on that we know that also have insight into things. And so this is your podcast. This is you listening, like whatever it is that you're looking for and searching for, because we do believe wealth creation is a whole human experience. It's not just about getting to one monetary financial goal and now you're wealthy. It's everything else that goes along with you, that your well-being, the people that you love, the experiences that you have. And I don't want to say positive or negative because I don't know that it has to be a negative experience. It's an experience, period. Even if it has uncomfortable feelings around it.
You can still ask where the gift is.
You can still ask where the gift is. So with all of that being said, I'm sending you so much love.
Be well, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe and take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.